Hey gang, thanks for joining me again today for day 2, phase 2, stage 2, whatever you want to call it, of portrait with 4 people in it. You might wonder why I'm scribbling so much right now. I'm just trying to keep from getting too tight too quickly. All right, let's get official. This is Daily Art Adventure number 953. Go. Second stage or second phase on a portrait with 4 people in it. So let me just let you compare the two. I already messed this one up. This is how much I got done yesterday. You can watch me start this process. This is all, it was a toned canvas, toned with acrylic browns, and then painted in oils, all transparent, nothing but dark brown, and the light areas here are where either where I left the original tone coming through or where I wiped off with a rag or brush, okay? So there's nothing on this except for what I just did right there. There's nothing on this canvas except dark brown, transparent dark brown, right? And yesterday I was trying to describe, you know, my level of expertise or lack thereof. Hello, Stein Oldenhoff. Good to have you here. So compare this to that and this. I did all of this just by looking and staring, no measuring, no nothing. So maybe it'd be easier for you if I just do this. There we go. That's better, isn't it? All right. So there's my comparison. I talked briefly yesterday about, again, I did all of this without any measuring, and I ended up making all the people, the women and baby, I ended up making all the heads larger than they are in the photograph relative to the size. And I was talking about, is that because I'm making a mistake, because I'm human and I'm screwing up? The answer is yes. But there is another question. Is it also possibly because I'm, rather than slavishly copying this, is it that am I intuitively making it a better painting? And I think the answer to that is also yes. So the spaces between the people are not a good, they will not help me in capturing a perfect likeness because I've shrunk all the spaces and made the people bigger. Be that as it may, I'm pretty happy with the likeness that I achieved on this woman, this one, the baby. Good enough for a start. This was the weakest one right here. And let me tell you what I'm going to do. Oh, hang on, I have a couple paintings here that are unfinished, where I used either the same or very similar technique. This is an old painting of my dear friends Joe and Ryan that I started years ago, and I keep meaning to give it to one of them, but I have to have it at the right time. So this is one stage further along than that, and as you can see, I've begun introducing some color, not intense full-on color, but some color. So this is a kind of a crazy way to do portraits. This is not at all the way, say, Mark Carter, C-A-R with a D, Carter. This is not his approach at all. This is a different approach, and it's what I call my fast oil portrait technique. And then here's one more where there's no color in this one, but I've captured a perfect likeness. I wish I had a photograph here to show you that it's accurate, that it's correct. What happened on this one? This is a long time ago, 5 or 6 years ago. I was dialoguing with the mother of these two kids. I thought I had a green light, a go ahead. So I did a lot of work, as you can see. And then she said, oh, no, we decided not to do that. So anyway, so I have a nice portrait of these two kids that I don't know. I know they're Russian. I know they're adopted from Russia. Anyway, so I want to take this in this direction, although I might also introduce some color. So this is one way to do portraits. By no means, it's not the only way. It's just one way. All right, now let's go back to step 2 then. I'm not erasing this, but let's zoom right in here. Now, if you think you or I can't see, well, hang on. If you think that I can't see, that you can see it, right? Let's do this again. Okay, so I just put some Gamsol. Everything here is dry, of course, because I did it yesterday. Let's talk through that. So it didn't take me long to do it. Let's do it again. All right. One of the fastest ways to achieve realism, anytime you're painting the word I use most of the time is a variegated. That means lots of shades, light, like a face, a tree, a cloud, grass, fur, hair, foliage, anything that's got a lot of stuff in it. One of the easiest way to achieve realism is, first of all, after the part of the drawing is done, cover the whole thing. And in other words, I'm not painting around anything, as you can see. Cover the whole thing with a mid-tone. And then do your dark details, and then do your light highlights, okay? In that order. So let me say it. How to achieve, if you're painting trees, clouds, fur, hair, foliage, grass, leopard spots, anything that's busy, faces, mid-tone, dark details, light details. Mid-tone over the whole thing, like I did, but I can still see you and I, we can still see the face coming through. Mid-tone over the whole thing. Then dark details, then light details. Some of you will say, well, couldn't we do it the other way around? And of course, you can paint any the heck way you want to. But no. My whole point here is the order. Mid first, dark second, light third. Okay, so the answer to your question is no. No, it is not the same. That's all the energy. I don't want to get into an argument. All right. Boy, I'm feisty today, aren't I? Whew. All right, now it gets serious. And I'm going to put, this is not quite the same size. This is actually larger than this. So later on in the process, in Photoshop, I'll print out a copy that's exactly the same size as this, and that will help. But there are several things about this face, my drawing, that are wrong. As I said earlier, this is the worst of the three. Of the four. I'm sorry. This is the worst. I was pretty happy with the likeness I've achieved in these three. This was, you can tell who it is, and this is what I said yesterday. This is the level, so to speak, that I am at. Forgive the grammar, you English major, just settle down. This is the level that I'm at with my portraiture. You can tell who this is supposed to be. Anybody that knows this woman says, oh, that's Mabel, whatever her name is, okay? But you also go, yeah, but there's something wrong. Okay, so I've been doing a little bit of looking, and I'll bring you in on that process as well here in a minute. And I'm looking for mistakes. And to help me with finding those mistakes, I'll tell you one of the tricks that I have. First of all, let me get in the right position there. I simply took a picture of my painting with a phone. Here's step number one. This is what I call this is one of the steps for overcoming portrait blindness. I will edit this and publish it on my YouTube channel. One of the tricks is simply take a picture of your painting with your phone. Some of you will say, well, I got one better. I'm going to take a picture of it with my iPad, with my tablet, because then the picture's bigger. No, here I am being feisty again. No. It is, in fact, precisely the smallness of this image that helps you. Not big, small helps. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. But let me get this back up in view. I'm assuming you guys, number one, that you all have a smartphone and it has a camera, and that you know how to operate it. Now, one of the things you can do with again, I'm assuming you know how to edit your photographs, right? If you don't, oh my goodness, go take a quick few minutes, transform, and one of the things you do is flip horizontally, boom, save. Now this is did you catch that? This is now a mirror image of that. It would be the same. I have a mirror here somewhere, but I'm not going to. I could look at my painting in a mirror, which would help, but this is the same thing. And all of a sudden, when I look at it this way, I go, whoa! This is the moment at which I'm authentically embarrassed. It's like, oh my goodness. I thought I was closer than that. And by the way, let's do one better. So now I'm going to take a picture of the photograph. I took a picture of the painting, take a picture of the photo. Whoops, take a picture of the photograph. Boom. And I'm do the same thing. I'm hit edit, transform, flip. Now I'm looking at the mirror image. Now I have the mirror image of the painting. Forgive me, the mirror image of a photo, and the mirror image of the painting. Now, if I really want to get tricky, all of you guys that have smartphones, in your phone, you can find easily a collage application. Now, here's the best one that I know of right here. I don't know if you can see that icon. And I'm going to put these two images side by side. Which two images? The flopped mirror image of my painting and the flopped mirror image of the photograph. I'm just going to crop it a little bit just because it's irritating to me that there's so much unnecessary visual information happening there. I can even hold the camera. All right, now do you see what I'm seeing here? This is a mirror image of both the photo and the painting, and now I'm going, oh my goodness, I'm such a bad painter. Doggone it. How did I get to be such a bad painter? All right, but there's nothing to do but to fix it. So I'm going to put this down somewhere. Yeah, I thought I was. Hang on just a second. There we go. Okay, I can set that right there. That is, I've got my phone there with the mirror image of both, and that will definitely help me see my mistakes. So this is just phase 2. I would love, at the end of phase 2, I would love to have a perfect likeness But now that I realize how far off I am, I'm not terribly optimistic about that. I'm now thinking, oh, it might take me more than one session, if you will. You know what I have done here? Doggone it. And I know better than this. All right, look at this woman's face. I'm going to put a piece of tape on there because it's blowing in the air conditioning. Look at this woman's face, the photograph. And can you tell me, is her face pointed straight at us? Or is it slightly to the left or slightly to the right? I hope that's obvious to you. By the way, one of the easiest ways to tell if you're not sure is look at the ears. Oh, look at, we can see this ear clearly and no ear over here. So that tells us what? Her face is turned to our right, to her left, to our right. Her face is turned this way. You with me? Let me find a piece of scrap paper here real quick so I can diagram this for you. Therefore, here's her face. The longitudinal line down the center of her face is slightly off to the right in curves. It's this way. And her eyes are like that, or like that. All right? I, along with you and almost all artists, have a tendency to, I didn't make this up, I heard somebody else use it, to frontalize, front, the word front, to make the face more frontal than it actually is. And doggone it, that's exactly what I did. In other words, instead of making that, and I drew it right originally, but then I lost it. Instead of making this curve like this, we make it straight like this. And again, I had this drawn, I had that line drawn, but I lost it. So I have once again, up to my old screwball, faulty human tricks, I have taken her face and turned it toward me. That makes me really irritated. Because I know better. Doggone it, I know better. I'm going to try painting without my glasses for a little while. I'm, like most older people, I am farsighted. So, so everything is quite blurry, which sometimes actually helps quite a bit. Now, somehow in my painting, my original, I got the mouth shifted way to the right, so I need to shift it to the left. Let's do a little bit of plain old-fashioned. Yeah, so I'm already shifting it. I promise. See, look at this smile. I don't know if you can see this smile line right here. I'm moving it an entire quarter of an inch, which on a face this size, a quarter inch is like a Grand Canyon. I mean, that's huge. So I'm so far off, it's not even funny. Stop laughing. And likewise, her chin, my goodness, has to move over to our left. Now, somebody might say, well, wouldn't it have been easier to get it right the first time? The answer is heck yeah. Of course. I will have an easier time on these three faces again, because They look pretty close to me. This one was the weakest, the worst. I'm going to put my glasses on to look at my yeah, my photograph down there. Angle of glasses. Whoops. Oh, that's irritating. This paper got in my way, made my brush push down on the canvas way too hard. Hey, that reminds me. I don't know if anybody is. I talk about brushmanship once in a while. One of the most obvious indicators of, I'll be blunt and rude, of a beginner painter is of course the brush strokes, the marks that they make. And beginner painters, it seems remarkably universal. They all have a penchant for mishandling the brush, for one thing. But let me get another piece of paper. So I'm taking a little detour here. And a marker. This might be worth the price of admission. Let's pretend this is your canvas. It's a blow up of your canvas. And here's your brush. That marker's not working. Let's throw it out. Thank you. Here's your brush with paint on it. There's those are the hairs. There's the ferrule, shiny metal. The handle's off that way. This is paint. Beginners, and forgive me for, I hope I'm not being offensive. Beginners seem to think that when they paint, the point of their brush should look something like this. When they're in the act of painting, that their brush should be smooshed onto the canvas so that the bristles actually curve. Let me do that with a real brush here. And I hope somebody out there is saying, what? You mean it's not supposed to do that? I hope that, because otherwise everybody I'm talking to here already knows this. And if that's true, this is an extraordinary, unusual group of people. Let's see if I can do this up close. Okay, here's a brush. Most beginners seem to think when you take a brush, you go like this, and you make a line like that. Did you catch that? And again, I'm being horribly blunt, rude, generalizing to make the point. Almost all beginners evidently seem to think that when the brush is on the canvas, it goes like that. And I hope somebody out there is saying, what? What? You mean it's not? The answer is heck no. 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 And by the way, I can spot somebody who's painted in that way. I am not kidding. This sounds rude and arrogant, but it is so true. In a minute, you'll be able to spot it too. I can spot that kind of painter by seeing their painting. I would say at probably 20 paces, that is 50 feet away, sometimes more. And it's very easy. In a second, I'll tell you how to do it, and you'll be able to do it. Go, wow. Let me get my piece of scrap stuff up here and show you why. You can tell when somebody doesn't know what they're doing. It's okay to not know what they're doing, but after you've watched this video, it's no longer okay. The reason you can tell is because all the lines, so to speak, that in their painting, all the lines that they have made with their brushes all tend to be way too fat and of a uniform thickness. So that's how you can tell. If your painting has, roughly speaking, 1/4 inch wide lines in it, here and there and here and there and here and there, quite a few, then you're one of those painters. So let me show you how the brush does intersect with the canvas. I was already doing it. It just dawned on me, this would be a good time to talk about this. Brushmanship again, how a brush is supposed to be handled. Do you see? I'm not going like this. That's a beginner stroke. All right? First of all, it comes partly from holding the brush like this with the wrong grip. Even if it's back here, I don't care. It comes from that. No. So almost 99.9% of the time, I'm holding my brushes in side saddle. I'm painting with the blade of the brush. Here's another way to put it. You don't paint with the point of the brush. You paint with the blade of the brush, the side. Most of the time. Okay, late in the later stages of these portraits, I will do a little bit of what I'm going to call point painting. I've never used that term before. We just made it up right here on the spot. I will do some point painting late in the process, but it's definitely the exception, not the rule. By the way, I'm sorry, I just laughed at this, at the face that I'm creating here. She looks terrible. She looks a lot worse than she did when I started a little while ago. And if that tendency continues, then I will stop this broadcast, because that means I'm clearly just distracted, and I will make corrections and then come back and start another broadcast, Daily Adventure, whatever, 954, whatever. Because right now she looks even less like herself than she did before I started. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, why are you painting in such a messy manner? Good question. Thanks for asking. The reason is because I'm trying not to get too tight. Now, let me show you two. I already did this, but let's just review real quickly. Here is one of my paintings done more or less in the same technique. That has some decent looseness to it. This one does not have. This one, I remember this. I struggled with it quite a long time, and in the course of struggling, got tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And it's accurate. It's good. Most people, non-artists, a lot of non-artists would actually prefer this kind of painting over this kind. But yeah, I like. Anyway, so I am painting messy here. It's not time to get tight. I won't do this, by the way. I won't do this on these faces because they're pretty accurate. I will do this, but at a much toned down degree, to a much lesser degree. Let me give you another portrait tip. Until you've captured a likeness, and I'm going to say a quote-unquote perfect likeness, and I don't mean that in a perfectionistic kind. Some of you are perfectionists, and you'll just drive yourself berserk. But I mean essentially a perfect likeness. These three are not quite there yet, but they're closer than this one. Anyway, until you've achieved this lofty goal of a perfect likeness, it's often a very good idea to keep your face quite abstract. By the way, I've just put some light brown paint on this brush. Let me give you another truism in portrait painting. The hard part in portraits is not copying or capturing a feature, like the eye, or the other eye, or the nose, or the mouth, or the cheek, or the chin, or the forehead, or the ear, the whatever. The hard part is not getting a feature. That's pretty easy, really quite easy. The hard part is the conglomeration, is getting those features in right relationship to each other. That is the hard part. Let me say that same exact thing right now with different words. The devil is not in the details. The devil is in the big shapes. Let me say the same thing. It's not the small details that are hard in a portrait. It's the big shapes in between the small details that are hard. It's the large measurements, if you will. Mostly. Not, it is the details too, but not as much. And not as much as most beginners would think. It's not a matter of getting the eye, the nose, the mouth, the cheek, the chin, right. No. That's the easy part. It's a matter of getting, the hard part is getting those rightly proportioned to one another. So it's the big shapes, so to speak. It's the spaces between the features that are the real bugaboo, the real hard part. And so if you can keep your painting, your portrait, loose and somewhat abstract, that's what this is. That's what's happening right here. If you can keep the painting somewhat abstract, you're more likely to be seeing the big shapes, the big shapes between the small shapes. You're more likely to be seeing the major shapes than you are the small details. So I'm not going to come in here and try to get this eye exactly correct. That would be misguided, because I don't have the major shapes in right relationship to each other yet. I will in a little while, trust me, even if I need to use some photomechanical trick, some means to do it. I've got way too much teeth showing here, so let me fix that in just a minute. But I've got the wrong color. I've got the wrong brush in my hand for fixing that, so. Okay, back to small brush. Here's another trick, by the way, when you're doing a portrait. Don't try to do it all with one brush. Because you'll be cleaning your brushes too much. So I have one brush that's dark, one that's light, one that's, one that's warm, one that's cool, whatever. By the way, I just added a little bit, well, it ended up being more than I thought, a little bit of red to this light colored mixture. More than I expected, but I can live with it. I'm having the same problem again. Once again, I'm turning this lady's face into a what should we call it? An attractive or idealized or typical old lady face. And in other words, that's a nice old lady face. Unfortunately, it's not this old lady's face, which is a real real tendency. I certainly have it. That is to instead of painting the person that's actually in front of you, or the photo that's actually in front of you, you sort of idealize it a little bit and make it a more typical human face, which generally means more attractive human face too. That's exactly what I've got going here. Oops, that eye's too low. Thank you. Glad to have caught that. Wish I'd caught it earlier. Again, I know that there are a lot of people out there that are so much better at portraits than I am. Part of the reason I enjoy the challenge of portraits is because it's the hardest thing in the world. It's the biggest challenge. So her face is too round, isn't it? Let me look again. Stop blowing in the air conditioning. So either I've made it too wide or too short, one or the other. Not both. That would just be too large or too small. And again, I will employ photomechanical tricks, cheating techniques here in a bit, especially if I have a hard time seeing what's wrong. You guys are probably all telling me what's wrong and I'm ignoring you. Hello, Araya. From the bushes of Africa. Very good. How fun. Delightful. Thank you for talking to each other. Hello, Jolie Hernandez. Nice to see you again. Hello, Michael, again. Good to see you. Joe, do I have any on-site paintings for sale? Certainly. You mean like on plein air paintings? Yes. If you go to my website, dannelsonart.com, and there's a link right at the top there to Fine Art America. And if you look at the paintings, it will tell you if most of them are not available, but a few are. Especially some of my more recent paintings are available because I've pulled out of almost all galleries in the last couple of years, and I'm still in the midst of that process. All right, hang on just a second. I'm seeing this with fresh eyes just for a second. Take my glasses off. And I'm not going to keep this broadcast going forever because it's just going to be too boring. Me doing the same thing over and over and over till I get it right. I've taken my glasses off again just to help me see the big stuff. I've gone steadily in reverse on this painting, I'm afraid. It's nice and lively. I like the I like the energy in it. Unfortunately, it doesn't look exactly like the woman. So, and never mind. I was about to complain to you about the pain in my shoulder, but we'll just keep that between you and me. People over the years have often asked me, do my arms ever get tired? And the answer has always been no. Until now, I've got a shoulder issue happening. Actually more related to practicing guitar than it is painting. Whoops, I just kicked you. One of the tricks that I'm employing right now is similar to what I said earlier, just a little more extreme. If you're not capturing a likeness, paint a little messier. Paint a little messier till you do. By the way, sometimes you can be surprised. I don't mean by that, you'd be surprised. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, sometimes you can actually surprise yourself at what it is on the portrait that is keeping you from achieving a likeness. Sometimes it's something you're not even paying any attention to, just a little tangential object or mark or something. And then when you correct that mark, all of a sudden the likeness begins to snap into focus, if you will. All right, I am very tired of working on that face. I will come back to it later because, in fact, I'm going to get it covered up because I'm completely portrait blind. Let's go on to this lady up here. And to give you, I'll put them side by side for you. See if you can, there. I am quite happy with the effect, the success, the likeness I achieved on this face yesterday. So I'm going to be just a little bit more careful on this one because it's in a good place. I don't want to lose it. But I am going to do essentially the same thing that I described earlier. That is mid-tone over the whole thing. And I'm leaning toward color here, the color of the photograph. So I have a definite orange-ish brown. Orangish brown on my brushes. Now I'm going to try something different. I don't usually do this, but it just dawns on me. Let's try this. So I've dipped a corner of this rag in my Gamsol, and I'm going to erase a little bit remove some of the light that I just brought in there. Not all of it, of course. Once again, I can hear some beginners saying, well, if you're going to take it off, why'd you put it on? Well, because I'm not taking it all off, of course. Just some. None of you, that was not any of your voices. All right. I don't usually, there we go. I was going to say I don't usually put down brushes and forget where I put them, but I did for a second there. All right. I have, once again, I have transparent brown paint on my brushes. I'm looking, of course, this is an understatement, I'm looking a lot at my photo reference, right? Every couple of seconds, eyes go back and forth from the photo reference to the painting. Once again, the formula here, and I use this formula a lot. Anytime I'm painting something busy, variegated, mottled, textured, lots of visual information, and I want it to be accurate or realistic, the formula is mid-tone over the whole thing, dark details, then light highlights. That's what I'm doing. I will follow up this. I will probably come in here on this painting late when I'm using really small brushes toward the end, and open this woman's eyes just a little bit. It's not, this is not a very good photograph. None of these photographs are very good. I didn't have to take the job. If I didn't want it, I could have said no. Of course. I could have been a temperamental artist, said, no, I will not work with such inadequate reference photos, right? We have a name for people, artists who do that. They're called starving artists. I'm not, by the way, I'm not just slavishly following the earlier lines that I made. Like, for instance, right here, I just moved the top of her nostril down, a 1/16 of an inch or less. And also the corner of her nose is not in the right place. I'm going to fix that. The tip of her nostril. Oh, and this needs to come down too. Whoops. My mistake. Hang on. Happiness is seeing your mistakes, by the way. It's not weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth. It's always good when you actually see what your mistakes are. That's like a major breakthrough. So her nose is too short. you guys already knew that. You're probably all saying, can't you see that their nose is too short? By the way, speaking of which, how is it? I don't know if you've ever noticed this before. As artists, it's always easier for the other artist, the one who didn't do the portrait, it's always easier for another artist to see the mistakes. Why is that? And that it is true that it doesn't seem that way. It is, literally is that way. And the answer is simply because of this principle that I call portrait blindness. That is, after a very short time, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes at the most, the person who's painting, me in this case, I can't see the error of my ways anymore. I cannot see my mistakes anymore because my eye has just grown accustomed to seeing what I'm staring at. And that's why typically you have to either go sleep on it, come back the next day and you go, oh my goodness, you see it with fresher eyes. But that's why in some cases, some of you could be saying, well, I can see that nose is too short. Can't he see that nose is too high? And the answer, of course, is no, I couldn't. I'm glad that I'm tickled that I did see it when I did. But that's why I'll never forget, years ago now, one of my fellow artists here in my hometown of Raleigh, North Carolina, one of my fellow artists went and took a week-long class. Should I name the artist? Oh, what the heck? Yeah, sure. He went and took a class with Daniel Green, one of the undeniably top portrait painters in America for the last 50 years. And he took a class with Daniel Green. One of the things I took a class with Daniel Green about 15 years ago, to a 3-day class. And one of the things that Daniel Green did at the class was he'll do studies of the students, right? He's got a bit of a racket going on, a little bit, because he'll use one of the students as a model. But the student does not get to keep the painting, of course, because it was a painting done by the uber famous Daniel Green. So if the student who's just had their portrait done wants to buy the portrait, he has to pay $1,200, which of course is cheap for a Daniel Green portrait. Anyway, I'm trying to explain how come my friend then brought a portrait of himself back to our painters group. And he showed it to us. And the split second that my friend put this uber famous Daniel Green portrait up on the easel, I said, oh no, that's wrong. And I was right. It's not like a matter of opinion. Frankly, the fill bin, the distance between the bottom of the nose and the top of the top lip, that distance right there. I'm sorry, I was showing you that right there. On my friend, Daniel Green had made it too short. And again, I want you to understand, it was like, well, that's your opinion. No. Oh my goodness. No. No. You're not in the right conversation. There's no question it was too short. There's no question it was too short. But how come I could see it instantly when one of the best portrait painters in the country didn't see it and messed up? How comes? That's because I'm so good? Not at all. Do you understand? So what I'm trying to talk about here is this principle that I call portrait blindness. I've never heard anybody else use that term. That doesn't keep me from making up words. I do it all the time. Language advances on the backs of two groups of people. Ignorant people who don't know they're making a mistake, and smart people who make up new terms on purpose. I hope to be one of the latter. Doesn't mean I am, but I I make up new words all the time, much to the chagrin of the more religious English majors among us who hold their rules religiously, is the point I'm making. Anyway, let's get off talking about talking about me. Let's talk about this painting. Who else is here? Hello, Mark Toomey. Good to see you. Yeah, you're painting one too. Yeah, I've been gone for 2 weeks. It's amazing. Number one, I didn't have any commissions, but more importantly, I was rebuilding my main website, my mother of all websites, dannelsonart.com, and I literally, I've been dreading it for years. I knew it had to be done, and indeed, it took me 2 weeks. I'm still tweaking it, but it's up and running anyway, and it looks a lot like the old one. That's when I didn't want to invest a whole lot of new creative energy into it. This was just all technical. Anyway, it's dannelsonart.com, and such as it is, it's up and running. Anyway, yeah, Mark, I've missed being here. It's been crazy. I've never had a break like that before. That's the longest break I've ever had. And it wasn't too many weeks ago I said the same thing. So it's been a bad couple of months. Isn't that funny? Anyway, life goes on. I am well. We are well. The shoulder's too high. Again, happiness is catching your mistakes, seeing them. Daniel Green would have been delighted if he had noticed that my friend's nose was too low or lip was too high. I don't know which one it was, but it was one of those. Happiness is catching the mistakes. So I'm delighted to see that I had her shoulder a little bit too high. All right, now I need some, whoops, hang on. You just fell out of my ear. All right, so let me stop with that stage, that phase, and move along. So again, the process, especially when you have an underdrawing essentially done, which is the case here. The process is mid-tone over the whole thing, dark details, which I've just done, and now light details. Sometimes I call them light highlights. Okay. Now let me, I haven't explained, especially to some of you who are perhaps newer here. This painting will not be finished. Hang on just a second. I've got a new playlist playing in the background. I don't know if you guys can even hear my music, but it helps me stay relaxed a little bit. And there were accidentally a couple of other weird things in the playlist, like people talking. So all of a sudden, I was hearing voices behind me saying, "What the heck?" I was going to say, I will not be finished with the painting at the end of this stage, this phase. What I would like to have achieved at the end of this phase is a perfect likeness on all four faces, albeit in a rather monochromatic brownish tone. And then I'll come back and do color. Again, this is just one way to do portraits. It's not even the way I always do them. I made a decision at the beginning of this particular portrait that I was going to do this approach. So the approach is, it was a toned canvas, basically this color, acrylic, doesn't matter, you could use oil, but it was a mid-tone brown. And yesterday I did all of this dark, that's transparent dark brown. The light areas is just where I've lifted out with a brush or a rag. All the light stuff. So that was day number 1. It's all dry now. And today is day number 2, where I hope to perfect the likenesses. And if I have a lot of time or energy, I will proceed with color. Sometimes I will do hints of color. Again, for those of you who just joined me, I have a couple paintings over here that are unfinished paintings reflecting, this is exactly the technique that I'm using. So this is just a little further along. And as you can see, I introduced quite a bit of color here. But sometimes I just stick with the monochromatic brown tone and then do color on top. I call this, very loosely speaking, I call this the Rembrandt approach. In that, the underpainting is done entirely in brown flesh earth tones. Quite different from, say, William Bouguereau or Frank Cavino, who taught the Bouguereau technique. In that world, the underpainting is done in a greenish gray color. Grisé, verdigris, all those words basically apply to the same. Verdigris, grisé, greenish gray undertone, and then translucent flesh tones layered on top of that. So that's the Bouguereau approach. What I'm doing right now, I call, again, loosely speaking, I call the Rembrandt approach, because it's brown undertones. It's Rembrandt, certainly not the only one who did it, but one of the more famous practitioners of this technique. I've done several portraits in the Bouguereau, French, 1890s. Amazing painter, very, very glassy, smooth, accurate, realism, tight. Hey, just for fun, hang on. I've got a Bouguereau painting. No, I don't have a Bouguereau painting. It cost me $5 million, $75 million. No, I have a Bouguereau painting that I did myself several years ago. So I'll bring, here it is. All right, so let's get up close. There's a copy of a Bouguereau. Okay, so that's done in gray. Sorry about all that glare. That's done in a greenish gray underpainting. There's the rest of it. All right, I'm not going to put it down because the easel won't hold it. Anyway, I did this about 20 years ago. I usually joke and say my painting is slightly better than Bouguereau's. I say that just to get a rise. It is true for two reasons. One, of course, his painting is 120, 30 years old and has suffered some oxidization, so mine has not, so it's better. But the other thing is his girl's face was just a little bit wonky, and so I copied it pretty carefully, but I de-wonked it a little bit. My girl looks a little better than his. Of course, I'm just saying that to drive David crazy, just in case. David, you know who you are. Just in case you watch this later, I'm just saying that to drive you crazy. You're welcome. Anyway. Doggone it. Okay, this might mean that our broadcast is coming to a soon end, because I'm starting to get irritated. Her nose is still too high. Her nose is high again. Either that, well, hang on, maybe her glasses are low. Let's try. Moving her glasses up and see. See, this is where it gets serious. I'm going to do a little bit of red on her lips too, because sometimes it's hard to tell what is blocking a likeness. And sometimes it's some unlikely things, like not having the right tonal color range in something like lips. If I have them too light, then that could block a likeness, the sense that we're seeing this particular woman. I could fix her nose a little bit. Well, I know part of what's the problem here is the shadow under her nose is too intense, and it's making it look like she's scrunching up her nose, which she is not doing. So let's fix that. Just diminish some of the shadow under here. That's a little better. All right, still needs some work, but I've rambled on long enough. Thank you for your company, those of you who have joined me today. Hey, Nancy. Yeah, thank you for the compliment about the Bouguereau painting. Amazing how good you can look if you just copy an old master. Dang, did you paint that by yourself? Well, sorta. A little help from my old friend William. Bill, I call him. Bill Bouguereau, you know. I'm back to doing dark details for a moment. But anyway, that's a good place for me to stop, I think. So you saw on this one in particular, you saw mid-tone, dark details, and light details, and I've got some details to work out here. A whole bunch of details. All right. I'm getting hungry. I'm gonna go grab some lunch. Thank you for your company again. Appreciate it. And I'm gonna pull up a chair, a stool, and keep working on this for a while. Okay? If I start doing something really exciting, I will bring you back in again. You see me rubbing my shoulder? That's what I'm doing. God, that's sore. shoulder. Weird. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.